All right. Hi, everybody. This is Laura Click with Blue Kite Marketing, and I am so super thrilled to have Stanford Smith with Pushing Social here today. And this is especially exciting because Stan was just named one of the top 10 blogs of 2012 from Social Media Examiner. So, yay, Stan! Congratulations. Very, very well deserved. So, Stan blogs about blogging, very passionate about it, and if you're not checking out his blog, you need to go over to pushingsocial.com. Really great stuff there. So welcome, Stan. Say hello.
Hello. I'm happy to be here.
Yay. So Stan, you just won this award. So exciting. One of the things that I loved that you did on the blog is you talked about this award and how you had your sights set on it and kind of laid out your plan for how you did that. That was really cool. So talk a little bit about the award and how you got there.
Well, that's funny. I just, one of the big things I talk about on Pushing Social is to be different, and always try to find a way to get a twist on the angle. And, and I was incredibly honored to be among the folks that, the other 9 bloggers who were picked for the award, and I actually, went to each one of their blogs, and I'm like, how are they dealing with this today? And there were some very gracious blog posts out there about, thank you, Social Media Examiner, thank you, my readers. And then I kind of sat back and went, what do my readers really want to know today from me? Of course I need to thank them, but what do they want to know? And Pushing Social readers are nitty-gritty type people. They're business people who really want to understand what's going on. I'm like, they're going to want to know how I did it, so that's why I wrote the post.
Yeah.
So, and, a year ago, I was a finalist for the exact same award. And, I'm not going to, make no bones about it. I was, watching every single day, last year.
Yeah.
And when the list came out and I didn't win, I'm sorry about that.
Okay. So it's okay.
All right. When I didn't win, I was devastated. I remember telling my wife, why am I doing social? It's not good enough. And it's really, and then at that point, I was like, well, wait a second, maybe I can take it as a learning experience, and I really can systematically get Pushing Social in a spot where I can actually do pretty well. So, and like I laid out in the post, I looked at my email list and really started to build that up and started to train so I can actually write every day, which was a big challenge that I had. Looked at how the blog looked and did it look like a top 10 Social Media Examiner blog, and at that point it didn't. Mm-hmm. So, really it was kind of literally training for the year. And then when, the final the nominations came back around, I really felt like, wow, this is a blog that can really win. Mm-hmm. So when it did, it was just gratifying because not only did my readers really stepped up. I was just overwhelmed with, the nominations and really seeing that part of my plan come together, so to speak. Yeah. I guess you can cue the maniacal.
Yeah. Ha ha ha.
But seeing that piece, but then also realizing that, all of these kind of came together. So, a funny person on my blog says, Stan, I don't have such lofty goals, but I'm trying to do X, Y, Z. And I kind of push back on him, why can't you have lofty goals?
Right.
Have them. That's,
right.
Even if you don't achieve them, you're going to be better for it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Well, one of my favorite quotes of all time is, I think it's Les Brown, the reach for the moon, so if you miss, you'll fall amongst the stars. I think that's exactly right. If you just shoot for mediocre, you might hit mediocre or maybe a little less, but if you shoot for awesome, if you don't make the very top, you might fall just right underneath that. You'll get higher than you would have otherwise. So I think that's exactly it. So this isn't your first rodeo. This isn't your first blog. How many?
The blog post, haven't you?
Do what? Yeah. No, I've never. This is the first time, Stan. So tell us about, for those who've not read your blog as voraciously as I have, what number of blog is this? How many blogs have you had before Pushing Social?
This is number 3.
Okay, so
this is my 3rd blog. The other 2 died a horrible death.
Yeah.
Slow death, but they died a horrible death. So I learned a ton from those.
So how long have you been blogging total if you add them all up together?
I think I've been tinkering around with blogging for a good 3 years now,
Okay.
3.5 years. So the first two, it took about a year for me to burn through those two, and I've been running Pushing Social for about, I guess, 2 years in April. So
That's awesome. So what makes Pushing Social? What makes it? What's different this time around? What did you learn from the two previous attempts that didn't work? That this time, you've had some great success with it. So what's the special sauce? What made it work this time?
Special sauce. I get to say that in an interview. I get to steal that from Marcus.
I know, Marcus. We're saying hello to you. We're stealing your special sauce idea.
Stealing the special sauce. The special sauce this time is I fell in love with my readers. I just absolutely head over heels stalking my readers. I know, and people ask me all the time, who, they just want to know, and I'm like, you really, for a blog, you actually have to visualize your reader and have them in front of you when you write. Because if you kind of write from this standpoint of I'm just writing to the public, forget about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, nobody can connect with a blog that way, but I know that I'm writing to predominantly women. I just know that from my comments and from talking that they're women. They're blogging is their second passion. They are most likely blogging because of a hobby, and they like to make money from it. I know that they're roughly 30, 37 years of age. I mean, I always am trying to figure out more about my reader and trying to understand what's going through their head, and then write to that.
Yeah. You're trying to find your inner 30-year-old woman. This is interesting, Stan.
Channel my feminist side.
There you go.
So I mean, it comes down to, just to give you special sauce. People ask me. One person asked me, "Why do you have kids? And why do you have these really why do you if I have a picture, I try to find a picture of a woman, or I try to find a picture that probably will turn off a guy, but I think it really appeals to the female readers that come to my site. So, I'm just really try to be dialed in.
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time asking my wife, asking my wife, can you look up this blog post? Does it make sense to you?
Yeah.
It doesn't really, it doesn't really push those buttons and, So I guess that's the first thing. My first two blogs, to tell you the truth, Laura, I was trying to do the marketing thing.
Yeah.
And trying to say the right thing and do the right thing, and they just I wrote like I had a stick up my butt.
In farm girl land, we say corn cob, but yes, either way. Either way, painful and uncomfortable and stiff.
Yep. So right now, I just let it fly and really study the craft of blogging. I think that's the key thing.
So how did you gain all this competitive intelligence, or I shouldn't say competitive, how did you gain all this intelligence about your audience? How did you determine who is, Susie Q reader of Pushing Social?
Right. Well, the cool thing I really love about the commenting system in blogs is that it pulls in people's pictures.
Yeah.
So I know that for my comments, the people who are most engaged and are willing to write a comment, I get to see their pictures, and I get to kind of start to assemble who's reading. Twitter is also great for that because you get to see a lot of their profile pictures and see their profiles. That allows you to kind of zero in on who the reader is. A lot of people email me, and I use the Reportive kind of plugin.
Love that plugin. It's so awesome.
It's amazing. So that's one key piece. And then, a lot of even Google Analytics will try to give you some demographics. If you use Aweber as an email autoresponder, they try to give you some demographic information. So I've been over time been able to glean that, and every once in a while, I'll be doing more of it this year, but I try to do surveys as well to get a feel for who the reader is. Yeah.
You mentioned commenting systems, and I don't want to get too technical here, but I know you've switched around different commenting systems. You were on Livefire for a while. It looks like you're not on them anymore, so you've kind of been back and forth. So what's the verdict? What do you like in terms of commenting systems?
After tons of research, hand-wringing, testing, the best commenting system is plain old WordPress commenting.
Woo! Yeah.
Regular WordPress comments. I've actually seen in the last 2 weeks, not actually 2 weeks, 1 week, comments have gone up when I've stopped using Livefire. Now, Livefire is an amazing product, and I'm not knocking them, but for whatever reason, it just provides the native WordPress comment system just has lower barriers for people to actually comment. I know that you were saying that, it was difficult for you to, comment on your lunch hour.
Right.
At work.
Yes.
So,
yes.
I imagine that a lot of other people have felt that way too. And as soon as I turned off Livefire, or I saw something similar too when I tried Discus and I switched over. It's just that people started to comment more, and I'll start to see newer faces comment, which is all I need to know to decide to stick with WordPress.
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool. So let's talk about someone just starting out, someone who either has a blog or maybe they don't have a blog and want to. I mean, what is your number one advice for someone that says, I've either got a blog and I'm just starting out and I have two people reading them. One is my mother, or someone who's just starting out and they don't know what to do. What's the number one piece of advice you give to that blogger?
Number one piece of advice is, one, find your audience. And I touched on this before, but really understand where your audience is, how they find information, what their challenges and their frustrations are. I think the worst thing you can do as a new blogger is just to sit down and start writing. That might work for some folks, but I've spent a lot of time kind of studying what I call these extraordinary blogs, and all of them share one common characteristic, which is they have spent a lot of time understanding who their reader is, understanding what their reader wants. So if you start off there, if you raise prize or you want to grow prize rose bushes, understand what a rose bush gardener really wants, what their frustration is, what time of the year should I plant my roses if I'm going to compete, you got to really understand that piece. And then once you understand that, align that with your passion, and then use your passion to start solving problems, making the world a better place for your reader.
Yeah. And
that's the point of view I take. I go, I imagine, my reader, which is a lot like you, Laura.
I can imagine that.
I kind of sit there and kind of go, what is Laura trying to figure out tonight?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
As if she's sitting down to write her blog. And I figure that, if I can write a blog post where you put it up and kind of go, wow, I should really clean out my sidebar junk drawer.
Yes. That was a good one.
Then that's a win. You can, if you start off with that mindset, you will succeed.
Yeah.
It's not, you might succeed, you will succeed. Because you're being one-on-one with people.
Right. I think I've read a lot of stuff that says that. I think Naomi Dunford also says something similar. She says, talk to one person, come up and, she encourages people to come up with a character profile. This is my reader. This is Sally, and she has 2 dogs, and she is 43 years old, and she loves to knit, and she, drinks herbal tea, or what, come up with this. So when you're writing for Sally, who has 2 dogs and likes to knit, and you can really get in their head. And I think that's great for someone who is like the business owner. So a lot of people who are watching this are people who already have businesses, but for the kind of people you talk to, they're people who are maybe the hobby bloggers, or people who are just kind of just taking the foray into that. Existing businesses have an idea of who their customer is, but for the people who are just starting from scratch, have no idea. So how do they go about figuring that out?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, if you're a hobby blogger, you're actually ahead of the business blogger. The reason why is because you're really writing for people just like yourself.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying? So the hobby blogger who is, I don't know, who likes to make ships in a bottle, you really understand exactly what that person is looking for. So a lot of times, what it really comes down to is being able to package your expertise, being able to say, okay, and I'm going to run with this metaphor, but ships in a bottle, like what bottles do I pick?
Right.
What kind of supplies do I need to use? And being able to package that up into blog posts that you think will be compelling and useful to your reader. I think a lot of people have a problem with that. It's kind of taking what they know and their perspective and putting it into nice bite-sized chunks over the course of a year that, their readers can start to get to know them and get to know their expertise. And I want to put in one more piece, and I stress this, is that if you're starting off your blog, you have to get over the humility thing. You have to realize that you need to promote yourself.
Yep.
Okay? All day, every day, you got to promote your blog. And I kind of approach it this way. This is not about being smarmy or a used car salesman. It is, if you are actually really, really good at what you do, your audience deserves to hear what you have to say.
Right.
They don't subject them to having to hunt you down.
Yeah.
Get your stuff out there. I think that people who are afraid to promote are I think they're afraid to admit that maybe they don't have something useful.
Right.
But I absolutely believe I have something useful to offer. And there's, I've been able to review 20, 30 blogs over the last couple of weeks. And every single one of the people that I've reviewed have something interesting to say. And I tell them, promote, And, really for Pushing Social, I make no bones about it. I promote the hell out of that blog.
Yeah.
And the results, show for themselves.
Yeah. Well, you bring up a really good point, and I've talked a lot about this, and in fact, the post I wrote for you brought up the used car salesman caricature. I mean, I think that's the ultimate fear for business owners and bloggers. It's this, I think you've got two types of people online. You've got and I would say the vast majority probably fit in the I'm scared to death to promote myself, because they don't want to be like that used car salesman.
Right.
Oh, and hello. This is my dog. So hello, Bailey.
Back in.
Yeah. All right. You're going to stay in? All right. So I'm going to close the door. You're going to stay in this time? No? We're going to leave? She can't decide. All right. She's staying in. Hello, everyone. Here. Well, now, officially, Bailey, say hello. Oh, we're yawning. I'm very tired. She works hard. All right. Bailey, the blue kite sidekick. Yes.
I show you my golden retriever here. Not surprised that she hasn't kind of nudged in the room.
But then they could talk to each other. She's sitting here. She's very interested in what you have to say, Stan. She just had to come in and know what's going on. Hi, Bailey.
Reader. But she doesn't fit my profile.
She doesn't?
No.
Bailey. She says she's perfect just the way she is. So, all right. So where were we? Oh, right. So the used car salesman. I think people have this insane fear of becoming the used car salesman, and so there's the people who under promote because they don't want to be that, and then there are the people that know that they're they need to find that ROI. They need to make money from doing all these things they're doing online, and so then all they do is sell. There's those people who are screaming at you, and all they do is promote their stuff, and it's just a total turnoff. So. So the $1 million question is, how do you encourage people to find that, get over the, lack of selling, because you're never going to, get anywhere if you don't, but you don't want to be the guy who's in your face either. So how do you find that happy meeting ground?
I think one approach is that you need to have multiple touch points with your consumer. I think the people who have to feel like they have to sell, feel like they only have one chance to talk to this person. I try to open up as many touch points as I can with people who come to Pushing Social. So if it's through Twitter, I'm going to be investing a lot of time in Facebook, my email list, and I talk tons about email and how important that is. But in the blog itself, by having all those touch points, I can be a lot more subtle, a lot more discreet about, pushing a product. And you know what? I have to take that back. I don't really see it as pushing a product. It's more of, listen, I'm going to talk to you a lot about what I already know. And I think, people who are watching this, you should talk a ton about what you know and give away as much as you can for free. And then, when you get to a point where you decide that, and by the way, if you want to take this relationship to another level, or, you want to get a product that makes this a lot more convenient for you, then it's here, But I'm invested in teaching you. I'm invested in being a mentor. I'm invested in being, guiding you in this regard. And, if you find my product, you can. I think the other piece is that if you're at a situation where you absolutely need to sell off of your blog, then you probably need to focus on something else. Because you're just not going to get that ROI. I mean, people are attuned to wanting a relationship first off of the blog.
Right.
So, you may need to invest more time in your website, landing pages, all that other kind of good stuff. And then not use your blog for that platform.
So let's talk about money. Unless you're the hobby blogger and you're just purely doing it because you want to talk about, you like to talk about knitting or whatever, or the ships in the bottle. That's one thing. But I would venture to say that most people are blogging either A, because they're trying to build a business around a blog, right? Or B, they have an existing business and they're using a blog to promote it. So how do you go, what's the best way to, make money with a blog, and how do people go about doing that?
Well, there's a couple of models out there, but I'll talk to you. I hate the theory of it all, but I think the number one thing you need to do is you need to get something in people's hands. Okay, something that's off of your blog that they can consume, and they can kind of learn about your point of view, your expertise. And I call that the expert product on pushing social. And I think you need to assemble one of those. That could be, a special report. That could be an ebook. Just to use marketing.
Video.
A video. Yeah. I think you need to be able to have that piece. You can give that away to build your list, or you can put a price on it and sell it at a certain point. But I really believe that if you want to sell off your blog, you have to get into the business of creating content products.
Yeah.
These expert products. And a lot of folks come to me and say, "Stan, I would like to sell." And I'm like, "So what do you have to sell?" And they go, "Oh, I'm not really. No, I don't have anything." I'm like, "Well, that's the first step. You have to build something.
Right.
First, a product." The second thing is that you need to, I think, one is that look for opportunities to write what I call pre-sale blog posts, which is you understand a challenge that your customer has, and you understand how you would go about solving that with your product, and you write a tutorial, so to speak, on how you would solve that problem. And then at the end of that blog post, or in the middle of it, you can actually say, "Oh, by the way, if you want to, buy this or get this, this is an easier way for you to get this problem solved."
Right.
So for the people who are watching this, I think a great example of that was my sidebar junk drawer post.
Right.
Where one of the things I talk about a lot in my blog reviews is how to clean up your sidebar and declutter your sidebar. And I actually use that blog post as a way of pre-selling, something that I was offering.
Right.
You have to get really savvy about how you can go about doing it.
Right. Well, I think, instead of using the word selling, I think maybe it's solving. What you're doing is solving a problem for people. And I think maybe that helps people get the icky salesmanship idea out of their head, and they go, you are solving people's problems, and you've got information that you're giving away for free, but people are willing to pay if you're going to make their lives easier. I mean, let's be honest. If people read your blog or read my blog and implemented everything we told them to do, they wouldn't need us. But let's be honest, people aren't necessarily going to go and do that. But then if you can say, well, you know what? Here, I will, for you, you're going to do the blog review. For me, I'm going to give you an hour of my time, or you're going to hire me to just do your website for you, or whatever it may be, or develop the strategy. People want someone to do it for them. And so I think the blog, offers up kind of a nice appetizer for the entree, so to speak, gets the audience warmed up. So, I'm still distracted by Bailey, the whining dog. She's very sad. I don't know what's going on. So maybe she doesn't like selling either. I don't know. So talk about, email. You mentioned email and how important that is. I mean, any marketer today would be stupid not to tell you about how important email is in building a list. You mentioned a free product is a good way to start out. I guess just talk a little bit more about that and why again, someone's starting from zero and they, they want to build an email list. How do you tell them to go about that?
Right. I think the first step is that definitely you got to put something together that you can offer. Just simply saying sign up for my newsletter, which I see all the time, is horrible.
Yeah.
Nobody wants another email newsletter in their inbox every morning. You have to give them something that is of value, that solves a problem that they have. And I think that's the very first thing you need to do. Second thing is that you can't be shy about where you place the opt-in or, your particular product. So I always tell people that the most valuable piece of real estate on a blog is at the top of your sidebar. And, it kills me when I see people put their opt-in box like in the footer or halfway down. You got to have it at the top. So visibility of that is important. And then once you get that email address, I think it's also very important that you start to interact and build a relationship with the people on your list. And I plan to do this a lot more. But really just start to share your life and share your business, with the people on your list. Treat the people on your list as if they're already a customer, a loyal customer, and really let them know what's going on. Even in my emails, I send out, one email that says, I'm just checking in with you. How are you doing? And I'm amazed by how many people write back, I'm doing fine, Stan, or I'm doing horrible, I can't get this done, or whatever. And, but really they're starting to see that benefit of being on the list. So, the email list itself gives you the ability to accomplish a lot more. For example, I was able to, just to reveal revenue numbers, from my email list, building a relationship with them, I was able to make, $1,400 in an hour.
Wow.
By offering a blog review service. Now, that does a lot for the budget. But you can't do that from a blog post. You have to do that from an email list.
Right.
Or going to your email list and going, you know what, it's up to you, but I'm up for, I would love to be, compete for this particular award.
Right.
Do you mind nominating me if you like pushing social?
Right.
And seeing, 50 nominations show up. That happens if you have an email list.
Right.
I think a lot of people have to understand that your email list is an asset. And if you want to learn something, learn how to get that going.
Right.
That's really going to give you a good return.
You mentioned the email newsletter. No one wants another email newsletter. So, that was the kind of the old school way of doing things probably 5-10 years ago. It was the newsletter. And even before email newsletters, there were the mailed newsletter kind of thing. Look at what we're doing and here's our quarterly numbers and, all these just different things. So what kind of content would you encourage a business owner to include in an email now? What should they be sending to folks?
Right. One thing is that I think I'm really big on showing, if you're a business owner that has a physical product, showing a physical use, a benefit of your product, and talking about it in a way that is a story. So talk about how a particular customer solved a particular problem with the product. I'm big on always lead with a story first, even in your email newsletters. It really isn't worth your time just to send out an email newsletter with another promotion about your product.
Right.
What people want to know is, who are you? How is this product going to help them?
Right.
Service, exact same thing. Really show how that service can help. Or talking about topics that surround that service or that product. That may be of use to a person. So, if you're a yoga instructor, talking about nutrition.
Right.
And a way that, I like to say that, when I send out an email newsletter, my goal is that I try to act as if I'm writing my sister, and telling her about something that is of interest to me and have that same sense of passion and informality to it. Because what people really have a radar for is anything that sounds like it's coming from a business. It turns people right on.
Right.
And I call them like the secret society of copywriters who still use paper mail. Still make a ton of money.
What is this stuff?
And every once in a while, I'll get something in the mail from one of these folks, and I read it from cover to cover because they've really mastered this art of being really informal and giving some really great information, storytelling, things like that. So the last thing you want to do is act like you're a business sending out a newsletter. What you want to do is tell stories about your product.
Right. It's talking to each other like human beings, and I think that I think that's where we've, for a lot of businesses, it's been a real struggle moving into the online world with social media and blogging and email. I mean, that's not how you thought 10 years ago. I mean, this is transformative in that, people don't want to be sold to. I think we've never wanted to be sold to, but even more so now, it's about, and this is going to sound cheesy, but it's about a conversation. It's about talking to people like they're human beings, instead of, again, back to that used car salesman euphemism where it's sell, buy my stuff, promote. People just kind of develop this aversion to that. They start to tune it out. I mean, there's a reason we fast forward through the commercials with our DVRs now, people don't want to see that. And I think the same is true for an e-letter. So as far as email goes, it's kind of like Goldilocks and the Three Bears trying to find the formula that's just right in terms of timing. You can email too much. You can email too little. What do you think is just right? And I know this varies from business to business, but what is your thought on how often people should be emailing their list?
Wow. Since I started blogging every day, now people on my list get something from me every day. Mm-hmm. I have seen my unsubscribes go up, but I am not...
Your unsubscribes have gone up? Is that what you said?
Unsubscribes have gone up.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I'm kind of happy that's happening in the sense that I'm kind of understanding who my true fan is.
Right.
At this point. So, really, if you don't need that information from me on that basis, then I would like to know now rather than later. Mm-hmm. That's number one. I think that at minimum, a business should try to keep in contact with their customers once a week. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Going a quarter and doing one email a quarter is too long.
Yeah.
One time a month is too long. And the reason why I say that is because everybody is coming at your customer.
Right.
Everybody is trying to get that mind share with the customer. And the way you build relationships is that you stay in touch. If I talk to my wife once a week, we wouldn't have a relationship.
Yeah.
The next thing happens with your list.
Yeah.
People get used to you and they get used to seeing you. And that's one of the big reasons why I started blogging every day.
Yeah.
It's because I wanted people to get to know me.
Yeah.
And if they get to know me, then they will start to trust me. And if they trust me, then all kinds of good things can happen. So
right.
The exact same thing with your list is that, you want to be able to build that relationship. And the way to do that is to stay in contact. And it doesn't mean that you have to stay in contact with a 700-word newsletter. It could just be, hey, you know what? I'm not sure what to do for the Super Bowl. I don't know if I need to have spinach dip. Should I have nachos? What are you planning to do for the Super Bowl? Just hit reply because I'm just interested in what you need to know.
Yeah.
Interested in what you're going to do. And you'll be amazed. I challenge people. If you do this before the Super Bowl, you put this out before the Super Bowl, try it out on your list. People love you for it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you brought up something really important. I think the biggest debate in the blogosphere is how often should you post in your blog? And you've moved to the daily model. And I've talked a little bit about this before, and you've mentioned this about there's kind of this mentality that when post frequency goes up, quality goes down. And I don't think that's been the case with your blog. But what made you decide to go to daily, and what has been the result of that?
Right. The personal reason why I did it is that I wanted to see if I could.
Yeah.
So I think that's the one reason. And then
hold on just a second. The whiny dog needs to go. Can you go out? Go away. Go away. All right. Sorry about that.
So, I wanted to see if I could. That's number one. But number two is for the reason I just said, which is I really want to get a relationship with my readers. And I felt like I needed to talk more than once a week. That's number two. Number 3 is that it's actually harder to write a post once a week
Mm-hmm.
than it is to write one every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that people are going to go, you're losing your mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you talking about? And, Laura, I would agonize over that one post a week because it had to be the best post ever because they're not going to see me for a week.
Mm-hmm.
And then the pressure gets so much that I just go, well, you know what? I'm just not going to post this week because I don't have the idea.
Mm-hmm.
Then I don't post the second week. And for people who will watch, I actually went for a 3-week span without a post early November. Why? Because I was freaking myself out with this one post a week. And so finally I was just like, I read an article by the guy who started GigaOM. And in the article, he said that he's been writing a post every day for 10 years.
Wow, a la Seth Godin.
Yeah, so Godin does it too, and I'm sitting there kind of like, there's got to be something to this.
Yeah.
So let me just give it a try.
Right.
To answer your question, how often should you post? As much as you can.
Yeah.
As much as you can. I am not in the camp of making bloggers comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm not in that camp. I am not going to say to you, only post when you have something to say.
Yeah, no.
I hate that.
Yeah.
You can't build a business around that. You're not going to build an audience around that. And if that was the rule I had in my relationship, it would not hear from me. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So that's one. 2 is that your brain is a funny piece of apparatus. And when it knows that you're going to come calling for a post, it will give it to you.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, I could probably write a book on this, but I believe your subconscious has thousands of posts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's waiting for you to put the key in and turn the lock and say, I want a lot of those posts on a regular basis.
Yep.
And you can have your cake and eat it too, America. Keep your cake and eat it too. You can have great posts every day of the week. Stan
said it right here. Yeah. It's like, and I totally agree. It's a lot like running. It's no secret that I run half marathons, and I have fallen off the wagon where after I've ran a race, I'm like, I want to sleep in, and I just want to take a couple weeks off, and it destroys me every single time. And I think I've heard it once where they say bodies in motion want to stay at motion, bodies at rest want to stay at rest. And I think there's so much to that. When you're in the rhythm of running, you want to keep doing it because it feels good. You want to get out there and your body likes that. But then when you stop, it's crazy. Even after a week or two, when you haven't done it, you get back out there and it hurts. It's painful. And I think blogging's the same way. I think you and I actually had our hiatus about the same time. I was dealing with some deadlines and things, and I didn't post for a few weeks, and getting back on the horse was really, really hard. But then when you're in the groove, and I've not done every day, but I've done 2 or 3 times a week. And when I was in those stints, I always had more ideas than time. I would be writing, and then I at any given time, and even right now, I've got a running document of probably 20 to 30 blog post ideas just sitting and waiting to be written. But when you're actively writing, you go, now I've written this, now I want to go in deeper, or go off in a tangent, or someone brings up a question in the comments, and I think it just spurs you to come up with even more. So the question then, you can have your cake and eat it too, but how do you make the time? I know, you have your day job, and you come home and you work on pushing social. How do you find the time whether you're like you and have a day job and blogging is something that you're passionate about on the side, or for people who are watching this who are business owners who say, I should be blogging because it's really good, but I'm running a business, how do I make the time?
Right. It's tough. I'm just going to be, I'm talking to real people here, and it's tough. So I can sit here and say, if it's a priority for you, you'll make the time, and what? That just doesn't fly, because as a business owner, you have 10 great priorities, that have to happen today.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing. I think number one is that I try to understand exactly what value my blog post has for my business, and for me personally. And so that helps me kind of prioritize. I should probably not do this so I could get my blog post done. Mm-hmm. Okay? And I don't do that in a vacuum. I actually say it's super important for me to gather this audience. And it's more important than, fiddling with my RSS newsletter. Mm-hmm. That's something I could set aside. Mm-hmm. So I've gotten ruthless about understanding what are real priorities and what are not priorities in my business. And that's a real gut check that mm-hmm. every business owner has to do. Mm-hmm. To me, blogging is marketing. Marketing is essential for your business. Mm-hmm. If you're not filling your pipeline with people who are interested, then you're going to die.
Yep.
So when I put it in those terms, all of a sudden blogging seems to be more of a priority than it was when I didn't do it that way.
Right.
Second of all is that once you make that commitment, you really have to be receptive to what your brain is trying to do for you. If you say that I want to blog once a day, and you say that to yourself, your brain tries its best all day to help you. Mm-hmm. We just don't understand how to recognize the signals. Mm-hmm. So when I wake up and I'm in the shower, I have an idea. Mm-hmm. And I go, oh, that's a cool idea.
Yeah.
But what I used to do is kind of go, okay, I'll remember it. No, I get out of the shower, write it down. Mm-hmm. My brain is helping me, and it's fine. And on the way to work, I have this recorder, and I talk out my blog post. That's dead time. I could listen to, NPR, or I can talk out my blog.
Right.
That's time that's there. Or I know another person who, talks out their blogs when they're on the treadmill. That's cool. At lunch hour, writing down that outline, again, that's dead time. I think what we don't realize is how much dead time we have during our day.
Yeah.
And really, also, I'm not in the school of thought that you should be writing epic posts.
Mm-hmm. Right.
As a business owner, you don't have the time to write mini novels. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, nobody has that.
Right. And no one has time to read it either. I mean, no,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I know my readers don't. Mm-hmm. So my sweet spot is 450 to 700 words. Sometimes I go longer.
Yeah.
But really, I think if you give yourself the license to say, I'm just going to write a 450-word post as long as this is my best post that I've come up with today, then I think that will help your time issue. If a blog post takes me more than an hour, then I'll set it aside. I really try to get my blog post done in 30 to 45 minutes. That happens with practice, obviously. I know some people are like, I'm not a natural writer, Stan. It takes me a while to do it.
Yeah.
But I think that's key. And another piece, too, Laura, is that you have to decide on a formula for how your blog posts work, and how you write them. So you're not trying to reinvent the blog post every time you write it.
Right.
I have a formula for how I write my blog post, which makes it 50% easier for me to get it done. Mm-hmm. Because I'm not trying to think up a new way of doing the blog post.
Right.
So all those little tricks amount to an extra hour a day that I can sit down and actually get the blog post done. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that you've really pushed, and I think most bloggers are big fans of this, but it's the guest post, and you've done your fair share. I've done my fair share. Why is that such a big deal? And how I loved your post today about who to target. Huh?
Nicki Minaj.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that's really interesting, and I'm kind of all over the place here, but I think it's really easy to blog for your peers. I think it's very you can get caught in the trap of blogging for your peers, unless your peers are your audience, which sometimes that's absolutely true. And so then the idea then becomes to also guest post for your peers, or people like you. But I liked what you said today about kind of going beyond that, to talk just quickly about why guest posting is important, and then what you said today about who to target when you guest post.
Right. Well, especially if you're starting off as a blogger, you have to go find your audience. Mm-hmm. Your audience is not at your blog.
Right.
And kind of backing up to your question right at the top of this interview was, what should a new blogger do? I think a new blogger should probably spend 4 days of the week guest posting and 1 day of the week writing for their own blog, because you have to go out there and find that audience. So that's why I think guest posting is huge. It was huge for pushing social. I mean, I stalked Brian Clark and Sonia Simone over at Copyblogger for months. And I found the forum that they run. I joined the forum. I stalked them there because it was that important to get in front of that Copyblogger audience. I wrote for Chris Brogan's blog, Escape Velocity, and Darren Rouse for ProBlogger. I mean, because that's where my audience was, and that's where, I got my initial readers from. So guest posting gets you in front of that audience. It also gives you credibility.
Yes.
Okay? And I think it's super important. If Brian Clark says your stuff is good enough to be on his blog in our field, then that's good credibility. And you can look at whatever niche your reader is looking at, your listener is looking at. I mean, if it's, for nutrition, then, find a top nutritional blog. You need that credibility.
Right.
So I think it's super, super important. I had one blog post that says, actually, your best stuff you should give away.
Yeah.
Right from the beginning. And, if you're in a position where you're accepting guest posts, on your blog, be super picky. As you know, I am super picky about who gets to be on Pushing Social because, I want them to be successful and I want my readers to be successful, in reading whatever is happening there. So that's why I like guest posting. What was the second piece of your question?
The why, who to target. You kind of talked today a little bit about how to kind of tangentially target, a little bit different audience than what you maybe would have originally thought. So and
this really hit me because, that post was about Nicki Minaj.
Right.
I was listening to Willow's, Fireball hit, which was, horrible for, a 39-year-old man to listen to. Right? But I was fascinated because I love Nicki Minaj and she's in this video. And this is a kid's video. And I'm thinking,
what is going on?
This is Nicki Minaj. I'm like, what is she doing in this kid's video?
Yeah.
And then it hit me that she's looking for that audience.
Yeah.
She's looking to expand her point of view. And, rap artists do this a lot, even pop artists, they feature their, why is that? Is because of the fact that, as a blogger, you're probably going to saturate your audience pretty quickly. You're going to have to start to look for another audience to add to, your existing base. That's number one. Number two is that I was trying to solve the question for my readers, which is, what happens when you run out of topics, for your blog? And as I was thinking that, then I was like, well, when you run out of topics, you have to expand your view. So the kind of expanding into this other area kind of flexes your creative muscles a bit and wins you that other audience. And the third piece is that, guess what? The person that is kind of tangentially associated with your niche, they have to come up with content every day too.
Right.
And they're looking for something new too. So if you're able to go to them and give them a really solid piece that connects those two fields, then they're going to be happy about that too. It's a win-win for everyone. So, I want to do more of that, but you'll see that, in the social media field, John Morrow actually got a post on Brazen Careerist, and he did exceptionally well because he kind of took his point of view and applied it to a new area.
Yeah.
And a lot of people do that. They find a way to get on Lifehacker. Even if they're into something that's totally different. And I really encourage people who are writing guest posts to really flex their muscles that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before I let you go, talk to me about you've kind of hinted at your blog review service. Lay it on us. Lay it on me. Tell us about it, and what do you do? How does that work?
Well, it solves this problem for people. If you're kind of going, I'm too close to my blog, day in and day out, I'm on this blog, but it's not achieving what I wanted to achieve. It's not getting enough visitors. Nobody's sharing, my posts. I'm not getting any comments. I know there's something off about this blog, but I'm not don't know what it is.
Right.
And Stan, I'm drowning in a sea of information out there. I know all the stuff I'm supposed to do, but what comes first and what comes second and what comes third? Then, my blog service, I think it will be very helpful because I kind of lay this out for you. I kind of say, here's 10 crucial things that you need to get done with your blog. I'm your third pair of eyes or your second pair of eyes, and I'm looking at it and I'm giving you my point of view. But it's not in the sense that, I really try hard not to give you advice that you've heard before.
Right.
I want to give you something new because, quite frankly, you probably tried all the advice that you've seen out there, So I really customize it for the person. So they can kind of walk away and kind of use, the 10 points I give them as a blueprint for their blog for the future. So, that's what it saws for, for a person. Some people are wondering, like, how do I make money? Like, how do I make this transition to making money? And, I provide some coaching about, listen, you talk to, 50-year-old divorced women. This is probably what they want to hear. This is probably how you can make money. So, it's always nice to have somebody to bounce those thoughts off. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll put a link to that on the blog post. So if people want to check that out, they can head over and get your help on that. So hopefully we'll send some folks your way. So well, thank you for taking the time to do this. I hope that people watching this have found it useful. I found it useful. It's always fun talking to you, and I think that you had a lot of great tips. And again, congratulations on that Social Media Examiner Award. Well deserved. I'm really excited for you. So glad you were on the list. I was eager to see who was on it, so I was thrilled when I saw your name. So congratulations.
Thank you for your nomination.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do it. I may ask you to return the favor someday. So anyway, well, thanks again, Stan. And for those who haven't checked out his blog, go to pushingsocial.com. It's awesome. Thanks so much.